I'm going to start with you, Minister, and I'm going to dive directly into the difficult issues. When we think about increasing security of supply, we have the issue of public acceptance. And as has been framed by many of you here this morning, it also comes down to, humanizing energy, the trust that it's actually going to help to achieve the goal of the government. For instance, is it going to help with emissions target, the increase in supply? Is it going to benefit homes and so forth? Like how all of these different elements that the public cares about. So I'm going to ask you, Minister, how does this debate appear in Iceland? And if you could share some insights or information of how the government is engaging communities.
Yeah, thank you. This is, of course, a very important question, and it's not an easy answer because it's all about how people experience the situation during certain times. And to be honest, I was very shocked when I realized the situation when I became a minister. Because we have been extremely complacent, Icelanders. Because you all know, we had great speeches and we are very proud when you're talking about the energy situation in Iceland. But it's not based on any of us who are here, the Icelanders. It's all our fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers. And then they had, really, they were a lot poorer. It was much more difficult. But they really wanted Iceland to be independent, and everyone understood that part of the independence was having energy security. And that was just the basic of the independence for the Icelandic people. So they did things that had never been done in any other countries before. And I remember, I was very young then, when they took the oil tank from my house in the small municipality in Borgarnes and put in the geothermal system in. I thought it was a really big thing, and it was really expensive for a long time. And then we somehow just forgot where all this came from, and we just thought that the settlers came and just plugged in the warm water and everything, and this was just some natural thing to do. And we have been in a really strange debate. We have had a lot of elections now for the last 15 years. We never discussed energy, never. Just not discuss it, just take it for granted. And now we are at a really critical moment. And what worries me is that you can see a total shift that people will say, I do not care about any balance when it comes to nature, biodiversity, anything. Just we need our green energy now. Because we always need to, as you have mentioned, everyone mentioned, we need to look long term, and it's always a balanced thing. And what we are trying to do, the short answer, no, it's a little bit longer, the short answer, we're trying to engage people and explain to them the situation. I think that's the only way to do it. Facts. Yeah. Is it a challenge? It's a huge challenge. But I think that's the only way to do it. If we do not... and we Icelanders, we argue a lot, no question about that, but and that will continue. But at least we argue on facts, that we know how is the situation. That is one thing. The second is also that's the same that everyone is experiencing. We always look to the Nordics when we are trying to learn from experience. Is that the one who is closer to where, and makes no difference. It's a wind turbine, or is it a geothermal plant, or is it a hydro plant? It's not, you cannot ask people to put it in your back garden and say, just be proud, be part of the green transition. They need more. And that is what we are also looking into for the municipalities, which are close to where they have the whatever of green energy park or making green energy. They need more, and we are working on that, and this hopefully all will come very quickly. And at the same time, we are trying to do, which we want to learn from you, how to shorten the permitting processes, because we have a lot of opportunities, but we are in a hurry.
Thank you so much. I think you're touching up on, kind of when you look back to history, up on a key issue, which is the fact that people see result, as people did so much back in the days, but as you explained, maybe the current generation, didn't. It wasn't a part of the transition, and then you see it differently. I want to ask you, from a Nordic perspective, these are similar issues that we're seeing elsewhere. How can a body like the Nordic Council of Ministers help? And perhaps, there's a lot of dialogues out there. How can we actually translate some of those dialogues better into action?
I think that the minister is definitely pointing to some very, very important topics when it comes to this public knowledge, public acceptance. And yes, Icelanders might have taken it for granted and they were not part of the transition, so heat is just something we have, hot water is just there. And in other Nordic countries, the situations are different, but it has not been for many years in the top of mind. I mean, electricity, it's just something you just plug and the play and it works. And then suddenly, what happened last year gave to all of our citizens in all of the Nordic countries a new knowledge and a new, this is not taken for granted anymore. And what you also said, that energy is a war weapon. And that, and not to make our populations frightened, but to insist that we are all of the 8 Nordic countries, we are all very strong democracies and very strong, well-educated population. And we need to insist that that is our core, that is our fundamentals, and to make sure that this is something, and it is, in the curriculum in the schools, knowing about the energy supply, knowing about how it actually works, how the system works, and having, making sure that we have all these roundtable meetings. Up here, you just jump down to the hot tub, and then you start discussing, should we have the power plant in our backyard? But making sure that we, in this organization I represent, that we make sure that people meet, and people talk, and people discuss these very important matters. And yes, we are in a situation with tons of fake news, a polarization, lots of politicians. I've been one myself for 15 years in the Danish parliament. Politicians are in a battle with the journalists and with the public, and this battle is going on at a speed that we have never seen before, of course also due to social media and so on. But take a breath. Come on, let's remember our democratic values and our democratic behavior. We go into dialogue. We don't just stand there and yell at each other. We actually flip out our ears and we talk to the local community about the energy supply. And we make sure that we discuss, if you are to have this wind farm in your backyard, what's in it for you? Well, of course, energy supply, but does it affect your energy prices? Do you have some kind of, can we give the local authorities or the local communities some kind of incentives? So these discussions, getting all the ideas on the table and take it seriously when people are angry and frustrated and afraid. So take that seriously and make sure that we have these kind of debates, and then just also be very mature in this discussion, be very pedagogical, because energy is not easy to talk about. It's very technical. It can very fast become very technical. So make sure that we talk to people's hearts and stomachs and make them understand what this is. So the humanizing of energy supply.
Exactly. It's a great segue actually to you, Masha. Your agency has been focusing on this new concept, humanizing energy, which is, I would say, a space that is one of the few ones that was not so crowded before, to focus on how we can actually make people understand what energy is about and why it's important. Can you share a bit more about what you envision with this strategy and how you're actually hoping that it will make a difference?
Yeah, right. Thanks for this question. Indeed, humanizing energy has been concept. It has been there for a while, but it was given a special attention with the efforts of the new Secretary General of World Energy Council, Angela Wilkinson. And indeed, I believe personally it makes a lot of sense, because when we talk about energy transition, of course, there are many drivers to it, but at the heart of it is actually humans, us, people, and people drive, in the end of the day, everything. It drives education, it drives energy transition, it drives government. So it's very important indeed, as you were mentioning, that it's important that people are engaged from the very early stage, from educations at school, and later on asking them and explaining to them what's in it for them, how their small efforts can have a bigger impact. World Energy Council, together with BBC Works, releases the movies that illustrate from communities, people's perspective, how the small steps to bigger goal, bigger topic of energy transition can be taken.
Mm-hmm. And education, as you've both mentioned, Karen, as well, I think is such an important element in all of this. And in fact, if you think about it, why infrastructure, energy infrastructure is not something taught in public school education. It's something that you kind of take for granted, I would say, growing up.
I think it is. I think it is in the school curriculum.
Yeah. My girls punish me when I go for summer holidays to take them look at transmission lines. They're like, Mom, we want to go to Tenerife. Here we are. Anyways, I want to open up the floor to questions. I know we have one here in the front. Is there another one so I can take two? Yes, the gentleman over there. And the third one maybe, just so I know. We start here, I think. And then we will move to you. Hope you... Please, go ahead then. If you could introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Good morning, everyone. My name is Fender. I'm the chairperson of an NGO here in Iceland called the Icelandic Young Environmentalists. There we go. It's been very interesting to listen this morning to this important discussion, and I'm very happy that we're talking about this energy trilemma and public acceptance as well. But at the same time, I feel missing from the conversation the discussion of a broader context of the fact that we're living in a global triple planetary crisis. So we have, of course, climate change that we're discussing here today. We have pollution, and then we have biodiversity crisis, which I feel we haven't quite discussed here today. So I'm wondering, if we were talking about the need to be in harmony with nature, in harmony with the people, don't we also need to be in harmony with nature? And shouldn't our discussion here today then be focused on reducing our need for energy and increasing efficiency in the energy system? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to start with you, Minister Thórdarson, since you're the Minister of Environment and as well. If you could start and then we'll continue.
Well, yeah, this is of course a very important question. I think I mentioned this in my answer, that it's always important to have the balance. And biodiversity is something that is in danger to go under the radar. It's a huge challenge. And to put it in a way that everyone understands, and we Icelanders, we have on conscious that we killed the last geirfugl. That was not a good moment in Icelandic history. Totally unnecessary, and we should be ashamed of that. And we don't want more accidents like that. And I think it's always important, and you're totally right, and we talk about those things that we need to bear in mind biodiversity. Also, you need to look into nature conservation. And especially for us Icelanders, because we have the largest desert in Europe, we have areas which is very rare in our part of the world and actually in in the world in general. So, yeah, you're right. But what I mentioned also is that if we do not fix the problem, if there will be endless of just hiccups, and we see blackouts, and we see problems, then it will be extremely difficult to raise these issues. Because the public, not in Iceland, not anywhere else, will have any tolerance towards things like that. So it is, you always need to think about it, say, together and look at the balance. But what worries me now, because at least in our country, is that we have been so slow, been so complacent, that there will be people want just flood it, we want green energy, makes no difference how, just get it now. And this is not working, and we are going to have a system that will work very quickly.
Maybe if I could throw the ball to you, Karen, since these are the similar issues as are discussed in the other Nordic countries. Again, from the perspective of the Nordic Council of Ministers and the work that you do, like what would be some of the lessons, or how could we use these ministerial dialogues to highlight the issues?
Well, I can assure you that when energy ministers are talking about energy supply, they do not have a narrow mind. They know that they are part of a bigger picture, definitely. So I think it's maybe, allow me to be a little tough, but maybe a little unfair to make it sound like a government in a country would only, focus on energy supply and profit, because that doesn't happen anymore. Maybe it did earlier, but I've never met a government in the recent, at least 10 or 20 years in the Nordic countries who does not cover and pay respect to the whole picture. And of course, now we have 3 hours together here, and the topic is security, and that's why the topic was not biodiversity. But of course it's interlinked. It's inevitable. And when we are talking about people and how it affects people, the green transition affects everybody. And why are we doing it? Well, for the sake of our planet. There is no planet B. So that's why things are interlinked. And using the ministerial councils, of course, there are specific topics, but every minister leaving a ministerial meeting is also part of a government and with the parliament and that whole democratic body, that whole democratic institution that we should be so proud of. And I love the activism that we have, and I love the discussions we have. They're so important. So just to underline that the topic is something else, but that doesn't mean that we are forgetting the whole picture.
Anything you want to add to this dialogue, Masha?
Yeah, I think just 2 points. I will be partly repeating to what has been already said. There are 2 aspects. First, again, is humanizing energy, because problems that you were mentioning have a lot to do with that. If we really involve communities and people, so end users of energy solutions, many of these problems can be solved. And second aspect is actually the global one. Representing World Energy Council here today, it's actually what the Council is trying to do to facilitate the dialogue on these matters globally. And there's a lot that countries can learn from each other, best practices as well as failures. That's maybe even more important, what doesn't work. Today we're talking about collaboration in Nordic states, which is a fantastic place to start, but we can even expand this conversation to a bigger, larger level. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I know in your role you cover a region from, what was it?
Yeah, so yeah, my region, which is Europe, it really starts with Iceland and ends with Kazakhstan. say this part of the world from China to to Iceland. It's very diverse, and it's actually good. Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. It's actually a great illustration of how diverse we are. The issues that Kazakhstan faces in Central Asia is very different from Southern Europe, and very different from Northern Europe. But in the end, the issue is exactly what you raised, and I think that unites us all.
Thank you. So we're going to move to the question in the back. Yeah. And if you can remember to introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Magnus Johannesson. I've been doing renewable energy for over 25 years all over the world, actually. I have one question because I noticed that when Klaus was speaking, he was talking about the interconnection between the Scandinavian countries. Well, Iceland and Greenland are islands, energy islands. Neither are interconnected. So my question is, in your opinion, are subsea high voltage interconnectors between countries important when it comes to energy security issues for the countries?
Thank you so much. Maybe I'll start again, since this is pointed to Iceland and Greenland, with you, Thórdarson.
Yes, thank you. You forgot the Faroe Islands, which you shouldn't do. You should never forget the Faroe Islands, our friends there. You could argue that's good for energy security, but it's not as simple as that. Of course, that is probably the best way to present it, but for us Icelanders, there's a lot of other things that would mean for us, especially if we'd connect to other countries in the EEA. It would mean that we would see goodbye to these low electricity and energy prices. That's just as simple as that. We could subsidize and do things like that, but that's very complicated. And at the moment, and to be honest, I never quite understood this discussion because we really need a lot of energy to make a lot of energy if we are going to let it work, because it's all about that we are going to export energy to other countries. It would be very strange if the idea would be that we were going to import energy or electricity from other countries. So I'm totally against the idea. And it will not be done while I am in this position, to have it just quite clearly, because I think it's so important for us to keep stable, solid energy on a good prices in Iceland. And I think that all the who come here as guests and hope to stay as long as you possibly can, you will find out that not many things are cheap in Iceland. And for various reasons. But energy is cheap, and it's really important for the households and little and middle-sized companies.
Thank you. This is actually a very interesting question for you, Karen, since it's been a major part of the dialogue in the other Nordic countries. If we look at Norway, for instance, the demand for households to have access to low-priced energy and the impact of the interconnectors. How do you envision this part?
Well, that's where we saw it when Klaus presented the analysis.
Yeah.
That's where we really see the differences within the Nordic countries. But you were asking also specifically to the islands, and what we've done there, and it might but just be a very short answer. But what we've done there is, of course, again, making sure creating the access to people to talk together, not only actually within the Nordics. We are also looking west, for instance, to Scotland and the islands there, because there is some similarities there. Being an island, what are the lessons learned? How can we share knowledge on this specific topic when it comes to the energy to the island communities? So the net zero network on small islands is small. Sorry, Greenland. I didn't mean small islands, but
it's not small.
But islands.
If I could bring the dialogue back to you actually again, Minister, and ask you, what about hydrogen collaboration, Nordic hydrogen collaboration? Because a lot of, if we look at future collaboration, the dialogues in the Nordic collaboration have a lot been about joint infrastructure and frameworks around hydrogen. How is your vision on that type of collaboration?
The short answer is we need collaboration. It makes perfect sense for us to work together. This is of course something that we do not know exactly how things will be developed, what we're going to use for e-fuels. And for the Nordics to work together, it's something I think extremely important, and we welcome it very much. And it's obvious that when it comes to taking these huge steps, when we're going to the energy transition, when it comes to fuels for large ships, for airplanes and so on, and other things, then we need to do it in collaboration with others. That is, and of course, Nordic is the closest. Of course, we will have. I'm totally for cooperation, being in general, but talking about interconnection, then I think that we should also look at our friends in Greenland have a lot of potential when it comes to making electricity. But there's also a question: how do you export energy? I mean, because we are always exporting energy when we are making aluminium and so on and so forth. And the same will always happen when we have the e-fuels. We need much more than people realize, because Keflavik is a huge hub. But of course, if we see few e-fuels, then it will be trading between countries, and the Nordics should work very closely together on these fields.
Thank you. So we are actually out of time, but I want to ask all of you, if you had a magic wand and you could prioritize one thing, what would that one thing be? And I will start with you, Masha.
Just to echo what has been mentioned a lot today, collaboration. If we're talking about collaboration, we have a lot in common. In the same time, we're very diverse, and collaboration that would help us step forward.
Fantastic. Over to you, Minister.
World peace, I guess.
2 words.
Yeah. No, but
That's important.
yeah, but I think I think this discussion has been really good, and we've been here going through a really important thing, which is the national security aspect of it. And I think it's really important that the people who share the same beliefs and the same, and then I'm talking about human rights, democracy, and so on. We need to stick together, and we need to work together on every field when it comes to our security, and we shouldn't forget energy. That is crucial.
Well, that magic stick, you said peace. How can you top that one? But with my magic stick, from my perspective, would be that our Nordic vision happens, because that is the way to your wish.
Yeah.
So, and we go there through collaboration and
Peace.
So, peace, love, and harmony.
Okay, well, I want to thank you all for joining the discussion. I want to thank you all for attending. We're going to move now to a coffee break, but I think it's clear from this morning that, as the minister pointed out, energy security has so many dimensions, social security, environmental security, and we must continue to find solutions in this space, and we will continue to do so after the coffee break. So, thank you.